Good morning, gang. Happy Wednesday morning. All right, go into something here that we haven't talked about in a bit, and I want to discuss it so everybody knows. If you've paid attention to economic figures lately, looked at your checkbook, been to a grocery store, bought gas or whatever, you can see inflation is coming down, okay? The most recent numbers we have coming in September shows the 12-month inflation rate is about 2.4%. So from last September 2023 to September 2024, the price of goods overall went up 2.4% officially. Now, I think we'll all agree that inflation has come down, whether to 2.4% or not. I'm not going to argue. I've said before that's including Singer sewing machines and film for cameras and all sorts of stuff that nobody buys too. But inflation is still up. We don't have more pain added to the pain we already have. We're in the new normal. Do not expect prices to start drastically coming down on a lot of things. You know, you might as well get used to it. $3.99 a pound for ground beef is normal. We ain't going back to 99 cents a pound. We're not going to see 39-cent chicken thighs anymore. That's not happening. Okay, this is the new normal. What we've got to do is keep it from going to $6.99 a pound for ground beef and $5 a pound for chicken thighs. So I'm still seeing the chicken thighs when normal price is over $2 a pound. You're like, what the hell is this? Okay. But I want to give you a little comment on this because a lot of times you hear the comparison to the 1970s. You know, when we had inflation rates up in the double digits, when we had, interest rates, mortgage rates up 17, 18, 19%. And people are like, oh, that's coming again. No, it's not. Okay, I will tell you with absolute certainty, we're not going to see that again. And I'll give you the perfect answer why. Inflation may go up there, certainly. But see, the Fed doesn't have any more bullets in its gun. We were worried about inflation here over the last couple of years, and the Fed raised rates basically from practically zero to up to 5.25%, right? That's about as far as it could go. It wasn't like Paul Volcker back in the 1970s raised interest rates up in the teens. Because here's the other problem. Our debt. We are currently $35.7 trillion in debt as a country. If the Fed raises rates, well, the government, which only borrows money, has to pay those rates too. And the government can't afford to pay 15, 16, 17%. I mean, we're already spending 75% of our tax revenue just on the interest on the debt. Everybody talks about lowering taxes. Well, we can't lower taxes and raise interest rates because then the government doesn't have enough money even in to pay the interest. And that's when we go bankrupt. Okay. So this is where our problem comes in. The Fed's hands are tied. The market basically has to do what the market will do, which is a good thing because this manipulation of money that the Federal Reserve does is what causes all these problems in the first place. Now, most of you have probably heard, if not seen, all the charts and go, the dollar has lost 99% of its spending power since the Fed was introduced back in the 1910s. Yeah, that's the problem. What used to cost you a penny now costs you $1, okay? You look back over the course of time, go back to the, 1950s, 1960s, even the 1970s. where a family could have a house, a car, maybe two, a couple of kids on one income, and the person didn't even need to have some hoity-toity college education. Now granted, they weren't trying to make a living working at McDonald's back then either. They shouldn't be trying to do it now. All right. But any sort of skill, plumber, electrician, carpenter, insurance salesman, whatever, you could make a living. Think of the old TV shows. Leave It to Beaver, Father Knows Best, The Simpsons, whatever. One income was fine. You could own a house. Not like that anymore. Now you're lucky you can afford a house on two incomes. And they got to be very high paying incomes. The guy who used to go work on the assembly line all day long had no problem affording a house and his wife and his two kids and the dog and, a car or two and a vacation. Doesn't work that way anymore. We can't control inflation. Only the government can. Only the government creates inflation. Contrary to what the Biden administration's trying to pass the blame onto the public for causing inflation, we don't cause inflation. Okay. The government does, because the government produces nothing but spends money. You produce something. You go to work. Okay. Your labor produces something, whatever it would be, and generates revenue. The government does not. They cause inflation. You borrowing money to buy a car does not cause inflation. The government borrowing money to buy tanks does. Okay. Or giving it to Ukraine or Israel or Ethiopia or whoever. There's our problem. So the question comes in, and it came up last night on a live stream. What can we do to protect ourselves from inflation? And everybody knows I've mentioned, and a lot of other prepper channels have mentioned over and over and over again, gold and silver. And I'm not going to give you the reasons why. I think I've exhausted that topic 50 times as to the price of a suit, the price of a car back in 1920 versus in 2020, and it's still the same in regards to gold and silver. But so people said, gold and silver have been on a big run. Should I be buying now? All right, now, my personal opinion is yes, but pick your places, okay? We've all seen gold run up. I said at the beginning of the year we could expect to see 2,400 this year in gold. Yeah, we kind of smoked that. Gold's up over 27, potentially pushing 28 here. Seeing 3,000 gold this year is certainly not out of the question. Okay. However, you got to pick your places as to where you want to buy it. Right now, gold is closer to a resistance, closer to a top than it is to a bottom. Okay. And then again, this is what you want to watch. Gold doesn't trade on fundamentals. Gold doesn't have earnings reports or anything like that. Gold trades strictly on emotion and comparing it to currencies. Okay, so that's all your silver does. Well, silver a little bit more because of the manufacturing use, but and gold some in manufacturing, but primarily those are the two things. If you take a look at what gold could feasibly pull back to, all right, 26.75, maybe down to 26.25. That's a $150 drop from here, okay? And I'm talking a period of within the next 6 months. All right, maybe I don't want to buy right here. What's the upside for gold from here? 2,800? 2850-ish, thereabouts, in the next 6 months. So again, you want to take a look at your risk reward. There's potentially a $150 drop in gold in the next 6 months. And there's maybe an $85 gain. Just want you to think about that. This is why I say watch for pullbacks. Don't just go throw it in. Dollar cost averaging is a good way to do it. If you don't know what that is, I'll just give you let's say your budget allows you to buy $1,000 worth of gold every month. Buy $1,000 of gold every month because your average price is going to come out okay. You might buy some at the top, you might buy some at the bottom, you might buy some in the middle, but everything's going to kind of average out. So just giving you that as an idea. $150 downside, $85 upside. That's about what we're looking at. That's just what the technical charts, the emotion is telling you. What happens with currencies and stuff like that, that's a different animal. If you want to look at silver, silver's the same idea, okay? Silver's trading just under $35 an ounce here, okay? Good run on silver lately, huh? We had a couple of days here in the last week where it was running damn near $1, if not over $1 an ounce gains in a day. But where's silver? Well, let's take a look again at where the downside of silver could be. Silver's definitely near the top, okay? You're looking at a potential top end here where its resistance level is here. 35.75, 37.50, okay? All right, so maybe you have $2.75 upside in silver, and that's pretty good. That's about 8%. Not going to complain. The downside, again, is the risk that you're taking. 31.50, maybe about 29.75. Well, you talk about 29.75. That's a $5 drop from here. Both silver and gold are still buys, but they are in overbought right now, okay? Personally, and again, I'm not giving anybody financial advice here. I'm giving you my opinion, okay? Kind of how I'm watching things, what I'd be doing. There are certain times to buy things, certain times to sell things. Silver and gold, in my opinion, are not in either place right now. Would I be adding little bits here? Sure. Could silver go to 37, 38? Yeah, and then I'd be happy I bought it at 35. Could silver go to 29? Yeah, and then I wouldn't be so happy if I bought it at 35. But just saying, in the long run, it's going to be higher. But I want to caution you on this. Silver hit $50 in the 1980s. Granted, that was market manipulation. Silver also hit $50 in the early 2000s. We ain't seen it since. Okay? Sometimes to get back to break even is a long time to hold. But that's not the only reason we buy silver. Okay? We're not necessarily looking at it as an investment. We're looking at it as an inflation hedge. We're looking at it as having a hard currency should the world collapse. At $37.5 trillion, that seems to get closer and closer every day. But don't think that the Fed is going to be able to fix inflation. If inflation rears its ugly head, which it's basically inevitable that it's going to continue to do so, because unless we get this spending under control, we're doomed. You guys know that, okay? We can't afford this. Once we get to the point where we can't pay the interest on the loans, we're done. You can't borrow money to pay the interest because nobody's going to loan you any money, right? At that point, we're screwed, and we're getting closer and closer and closer. Let us go into a recession and watch what happens to inflation. Massive amounts of job layoffs where people aren't making any money, where our GDP goes down, and all of a sudden our spending is still like the good old days, except we're not producing anything to warrant it. This is what you've got to watch for and how to protect yourself from it. It's why I keep saying, and you guys will never hear me stop, pay off your bills, get out of debt, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Because if you've got a mortgage, if you've got a car payment, and you go into work on Friday and the boss hands you a pink slip, how are you going to pay off that car, that house, whatever? If it's paid off, they can't take it from you. If it's not, you got no income and we go into a recession or a hyperinflation environment and you don't have any money, you can't afford food. Certainly, I mean, if it comes down to it, what are you going to buy? You're going to buy beans and rice, or are you going to pay your car payment? You're going to eat first. Then you start losing the car, the house, the marriage, the family. It all kind of snowballs. Do what you can as hard as you can. And I know a lot of you are, because I love getting the emails saying we just paid off our house or we just paid off our car or something like that. I just wish instead of seeing 10 of those, I saw 10,000 of those emails. It's the only way you're going to protect yourself from the incompetence of Washington, both sides. Nobody's going to convince me that the Democrats are the only ones that want to spend money. The Republicans are all over it too. Hey, let's spend money, let's spend money. But we don't have it. We'll talk up a good storm that, we're for fiscal responsibility, yet when the first bill comes out to give Ukraine more money or Israel more money, all the hands go up on both sides saying yes, yes, yes. Watch what's going on. Don't expect hyper interest rates. Hyperinflation, yeah, that's coming. We know it, all right? But the Fed can't save us. You're not going to be going, gee, I remember back in the 70s, and if I had some savings, and I could put it into bonds or whatever at 20%, how great would that be? We ain't going to see that. The Fed can't afford to do that. They're not going to raise the rates to make themselves go broke faster. That's the problem. Just pay attention to the finances. Pay attention to what the government's doing. Pay attention to who is actually putting the proof where the pudding is on fiscal responsibility. Vote accordingly. Pray to God we get through all this and somehow save this country. And in turn, the world. Pinball out.